You open the app before you're even fully awake. The screen lights up your face in the dark. You scroll through nothing, not looking for anything specific, just moving. And then you put the phone down, and the room feels emptier than it did before you picked it up. That feeling right there. That hollow quiet after the scroll. Most people brush past it, but it's trying to tell you something important. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. It's the exhaustion of a person who has had access to everything. Every song, every story, every hit of novelty, and somehow feels less alive because of it. Not despite the abundance, because of it. In her book Dopamine Nation, psychiatrist Anna Lembke makes a point that genuinely changed how I see modern life. She argues that we are living inside the greatest concentration of pleasure-inducing stimuli in human history, and that this very fact, this extraordinary abundance, is quietly destroying our capacity to feel anything at all. That's the thing no one puts on the wellness poster. Here's what's actually happening inside you. Your brain runs on a pleasure-pain balance. When something good happens, a like, a bite of food, a funny video, dopamine spikes. But the brain hates imbalance, so it compensates. It tips the scale back toward pain, and the more intense the pleasure, the harder the correction. This is why the second episode is never as good as the first. Why the third drink doesn't taste like the first one did. Why you keep scrolling even when nothing is interesting anymore. You're not chasing pleasure at that point. You're chasing baseline. You're trying to feel normal again. And here's where things get genuinely unsettling. When pleasure is available instantly, constantly, and in unlimited supply, your brain recalibrates what normal feels like. The baseline shifts. Things that used to bring you joy, a walk, a conversation, a quiet evening, start to feel flat. Not because they changed, because you did. You are not broken. You are adapted. Adapted to a world that was never designed with your well-being in mind. Think about this. What if the moments in your life that feel the most meaningless, the Sunday afternoon restlessness, the sense that something is missing but you can't name it, what if those aren't signs of a life going wrong? What if they're withdrawal? What if the numbness is the cost of the overstimulation? That question is worth sitting with. There's a grief that doesn't have a proper name. It's not grief for a person or a loss you can point to. It's the grief of realizing you've been slowly trading depth for convenience. That somewhere between the streaming services and the infinite feeds, you exchanged the slow burn of real experience for the quick hit of simulated one, and you didn't even notice it happening. This is exactly what Lembke is pointing at when she talks about the dopamine deficit state. It's not dramatic. It doesn't arrive with a warning. It accumulates quietly, across thousands of tiny choices, until one day, you're sitting in a beautiful moment and feeling nothing. And still, you reach for your phone. Here's the uncomfortable reframe. The things you've been calling relaxation, the binging, the scrolling, the constant stimulation, they are not rest. They are the opposite of rest. They are your nervous system being flooded, over and over, and never being allowed to return to stillness. What you've been calling unwinding is, neurologically, the thing winding you tighter. But here's what gives me genuine hope about all of this. The same mechanism that makes overstimulation harmful makes abstinence powerful. When you remove the constant input, even briefly, the brain recalibrates again. Dopamine receptors that were overwhelmed begin to recover. The baseline resets, and things that felt flat start to feel alive again. This isn't theory. Lembke documents this in patient after patient. People who stepped away from their particular form of compulsive pleasure and discovered, on the other side of the discomfort, that ordinary life had become extraordinary again. Coffee tasted better. Music felt deeper. Conversations became genuinely interesting. The world didn't change. Their capacity to experience it did. And this is the insight that everything else has been building toward. Pleasure isn't the enemy. Ease isn't the enemy. The enemy is the removal of the gap. That small, uncomfortable space between wanting something and having it. That gap is where desire lives. It's where anticipation is born. It's where meaning gets made. A life without friction isn't freedom. It's numbness with good lighting. So what do you actually do with this? You don't have to become a monk. You don't have to throw your phone into a river. But you might just consider, what happens if you let yourself be bored for a moment? If you sit with the discomfort instead of immediately medicating it with stimulus? If you let the wanting exist without instantly resolving it? Not as punishment, as an experiment in aliveness. Because the version of you that can sit quietly and feel genuinely content, not stimulated, not distracted, but content, that version of you is still in there. A little buried, maybe. A little muted, but not gone. Here is the question I want to leave you with, and I don't think it has an easy answer. If the life you've been building, the one optimized for comfort, convenience, and constant entertainment, is the very thing making it harder to feel alive, what would it mean to want less, on purpose? Dopamine Nation by Anna Lembke is one of the most important books I've read in years. Not because it's frightening, but because it's honest in a way that quietly sets you free. It's worth your time. If this video made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.